To the coffee party for having me here, and thanks for everybody coming today. What I'd like to share with you today is a little bit about my story, about what I've seen when I was in the military, a little bit about what I'm going to talk. Might make some cringe, but it's the reality of war, and it's something that we have to face. If we don't know the real face of war, we're going to continually allow it to happen. My journey in the military began pretty simple. I got a call from my friend's mother. He was on the USS Cole when it was bombed. And so I said, all right, I'm going to go join the military and be patriotic and go fight the good fight. So I got into the military, and I ended up joining the Navy because the Army didn't want me because I had a tattoo on my hand. But anyways, the first day out to sea for me off the coast of Virginia was on September 10th, 2001. And we were the first ship to get up there and protect the harbor of New York City. Ultimately, we got sent over to Iraq and Afghanistan, and during my time, a couple of things that happened that still haunt me to this day. One was and one of the things I want to clarify here too, during my treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder, talking about what you've seen and what you did is really helpful. So this will be a little tough for me, but I hope y'all get through it too. Anyways, a plane came in, and when they come on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier, they catch a wire to stop it. Well, it paid all the way out and snapped, and it took a whole bunch of people out, and I was one of the first responders up there. I knew something wasn't right. Shortly after this happened, I was having nightmares. I couldn't sleep. I was isolating myself, but I just said, hey man, I'm going to John Wayne this and get through it. And that's what I did. After I got out of the military, I said, well, I'm just not keeping myself busy enough. So I went back to Iraq as a civilian and taught Iraqis the electrical trade. Well, I think all I did was throw myself from the pan right into the fire, because I seen some horrendous convoys and some horrendous attacks while I was there. There was one where actually we had a whole convoy of semis behind us. The Iraqi that was driving one of the semis rigged the trailer brakes so when we came into town we started slowing down. The first truck got hit by an IED, and next thing you know we were taking gunfire. During this we were told to leave and go as fast as we could. And this part might make you cringe, but it's the reality of warfare. During our escape, somebody threw a child out in front of our vehicle. And that image alone, it gives me chills right now just saying it. It sickens me to think that human beings could even treat other human beings like this. After I came home again, I John Wayne'd it. I kept myself busy, I was working hard, and all of a sudden that came to a screeching halt when I started having seizures. Now, my initial foray trying to get help from the VA, there was no help there. I couldn't get transportation. I couldn't get a ride, to the VA like I needed to. I couldn't get my health care. I couldn't get anything squared away. Hang on a second. So anyways, what I found out was that a lot of veterans other than myself were not just dealing with this. There were many other veterans that were dealing with this issue. And in order to get transportation, I called NPR, told them my story. They came to Cincinnati. They took me to the VA, rolling their tapes and everything else. And after that, I had health care. Well, now why does it take that just to get a ride to get to the VA? Well, then I was waiting about 1.5 years to get my disability payments because I couldn't work. As an electrician, you just can't have seizures and, work in electricity. Just wouldn't work out. So, on an expedition to Washington, D.C. with a veterans organization, we had breakfast at the White House with George Bush. And so I went up to Mr. Bush and I told him, I said, who I was and all that, and about how I had PTSD and ultimately what the seizures and everything were from was from the anthrax shot. So I told him all this. And in one of George Bush's great, moments of his life, he just looks at me and says, well, son, where are you hurt at? And I couldn't believe that he had that to say. So he says, well, how can I help you? I said, well, sir, I'm going to be quite frank with you. And I'll be quite frank, and I'll use the language I did then. It's bullshit 600,000 veterans are waiting for health care in this nation. You send us off to war, we come home, and you throw us away like toy soldiers. Well, needless to say, the Secret Service came over, they got my name and everything else and booted me off the White House lawn, and I was sent home. But magically, 3 days later, my VA disability payments went through. Now, I'm not giving any credit to Bush. It just shows that a lot of times it's the greasy wheel that gets the wheel that grease, whatever that is. The noisy wheel gets the grease. There we go. So anyways, thank you. I'm human too. Anyways, during this whole process of fighting for veterans and everything else, there was a really sickening reality that I came to. That it is corporate America that is taking over our country. It is from every aspect of life that we are seeing. They want to privatize prisons. They want to keep them full, so what? They can make a buck. They want to keep wars going and privatize wars, so guess what? They can make a buck. And then they really tick me off because I have 4 kids in public schools. They want to privatize our schools, give our kids vouchers, and all this stuff. And all that's going to do is take working folks and their kids out of the good schools that we have. So I decided, I'm going to get my health squared away, I'm going to go back to school, and I'm going to stand up and I'm going to fight back. Last year I ran for Congress in Northern Kentucky, and of course, like a lot of Democrats, I was outspent 3-1 thanks to the likes of Karl Rove and the Koch brothers. Well, we might have been beaten, but we were not defeated. Me and my wife, we got together and we said, all right, what can we do? So we formed an organization called the Heartland Revolution. The short end of the mission is taking on the right-wing cash machines and bringing them down. And for anybody that says that collective action, coalitions, getting together and putting boots on the ground don't work, they ought to wake up and look at what's going on around us. In Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, we are standing up and we're saying we have had enough. I've been to Wisconsin when it first started. Go ahead. Our organization's been to Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, Michigan, and I think he made a beautiful point in the last speaker about the idiot box. A lot of organizations, too, are under the fallacy that if we keep putting ads on the TV, that will help. But I'm telling you right now, when I'm listening to people on the ground, it is all about having those numbers out there and in the streets. So I just want you to kind of think about everything I've said today, about what we're doing. But the time is now. We got to get everybody together, whether you're doctors, lawyers, nurses, electricians, no matter who you are, it's time to build the coalitions. It's time to tear down the corporate dominance of our country. If you really want to end the deficits, end the war. If you want to end the deficits, end welfare. Quit robbing the poor and giving it to the rich. That's all I have. Thank you. God bless.